At 11:47 local time, the senior leadership of Russia's Black Sea Fleet filed into the briefing room at 1 Solovyova Street, Sevastopol. A routine commander's meeting. Fleet Admiral Viktor Sokolov at the head of the table. Colonel General Romanchuk, commanding the Zaporizhzhia front, seated to his left. Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Tsekov. 14 floors of reinforced Soviet-era concrete above them. Russian air defense active across the peninsula. Outside the window, the harbor where the fleet had operated since 1783 sat quiet in the afternoon sun. They weren't worried. They had no reason to be. 40 kilometers to the north, a Ukrainian Su-24M was already at release altitude. The pilot had one job. He didn't need to know what was in the building. He didn't need to know who was sitting around that table. The Special Operations Forces had spent weeks finding that out for him. He just had to push the button. 2 Storm Shadow cruise missiles dropped from the centerline stations and fell into the Black Sea air. Each one 5.1 meters long, 1,300 kilograms, turbofan engine spinning up within seconds. The Broach warhead system, a 2-stage penetrator designed specifically to punch through reinforced concrete before the main charge detonates inside. Not a building wrecker, a room wrecker. The engineers who built it understood the difference. The missiles flew terrain following at low altitude, hugging the coastline northwest toward Sevastopol, using an inertial navigation system cross-referenced against stored digital terrain maps. Think of it as a GPS that doesn't need satellites. It knows exactly where it is because it remembers every ridge, every valley it has crossed since the moment it left the aircraft. Russian GPS jamming over Crimea had been dense for months. Electronic warfare emissions blanketed the peninsula. The Storm Shadow didn't care. Jam the satellites all you want. The missile already knows where it's going. Russia's air defenses over Sevastopol should have caught them. They didn't. The S-400 battery that had been protecting the peninsula's northwestern approaches was gone. A modified Neptune missile had located it on Cape Tarkankit 3 weeks earlier and erased it. A $500 million air defense node eliminated before the operation that needed it to fail had even been planned. What remained on the 22nd of September was a degraded patchwork. S-300 batteries positioned for high-altitude threats. Short-range Pantsir S-1 systems covering the port approaches from the south. The coverage looked complete on paper. On paper is not the same as in the air. The Storm Shadow's radar cross-section is roughly that of a small bird. It flies nap of the earth in terminal approach, below the engagement floor of the S-300. Too fast and too low for the Pantsir batteries angled toward the harbor. Think of Sevastopol's air defense like a series of nets stacked at different heights over the bay. Each net catches things falling from above. Something skimming in at 30 meters altitude and 1,000 kilometers per hour doesn't fall into any of them. It threads between them. The Russians had spent years building those nets. Ukraine had spent weeks finding the gaps. Russian air defense claimed to have intercepted 5 of the 6 missiles fired that afternoon. One came through. In terminal phase, the Storm Shadow pulls up, rolls inverted, and dives at a steep angle. The Broach warhead fires a precursor-shaped charge to open a hole in the roof. The main warhead follows through the hole. It is not subtle. It was not designed to be. At 11:52, it detonated inside the headquarters building of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, while the senior leadership of that fleet was seated around a single table. Debris scattered hundreds of meters in every direction. Ambulances converged on Solovyova Street within minutes. The building, the central nervous system of Russian naval operations in the Black Sea for 3 decades, was evacuated immediately and never used again. But here is what made this strike different from every other missile that had hit Crimea since the war began. The weapon didn't find the building. Ukraine's Special Operations Forces found the meeting. Operation Crab Trap was the result of weeks of intelligence work, collection that established not just where the headquarters was, but when its senior leadership would all be inside it simultaneously. Any competent military planner knows a building's address. Knowing the schedule of the admiral inside it is a different problem entirely. That's a human intelligence problem. It requires sources, patience, people taking risks that never appear in official statements. Someone inside Sevastopol was watching. Someone was counting cars in the parking lot on Solovyova Street and reporting back. The Special Operations Forces solved that problem. Then they handed the coordinates and the timing window to the Air Force and told them to be ready. The Su-24M crew didn't know the details. They didn't need to. The job was already done before the aircraft ever taxied to the runway. This is the part that most analysis misses. The Storm Shadow didn't create this opportunity. It exploited one that had taken weeks to build. The missile was the last 90 seconds of an operation that started long before anyone calculated a release point. Ukraine's intelligence chief Kyrylo Budanov reported at least 9 killed and 16 wounded, including high-ranking officers. Among the wounded, Colonel General Romanchuk, commander of Russian forces in the Zaporizhzhia sector, in serious condition. Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Tsekov, unconscious. The fleet commander Sokolov was initially reported dead. Russia produced video footage claiming to show him alive. Western analysts established both videos had been filmed before the strike. By February 2024, Sokolov had been quietly removed from command. Draw your own conclusions. The building told the clearest story. Russian command relocated its primary naval assets and administrative functions to Novorossiysk and fortified underground facilities almost immediately. You don't abandon your headquarters unless what happened inside was bad enough that staying felt worse than leaving. Russia spent months publicly minimizing the damage. Then they sent in bulldozers and demolished what remained of the structure. That's not what you do to a building that survived intact. The operational consequence extended far beyond the officers in that room. The strike sent a signal about every room like it across occupied Crimea. If Ukrainian SOF could map a commander's meeting schedule precisely enough to time a cruise missile strike to the minute, then no fixed command node on the peninsula could be assumed safe. That assumption changes how a military operates at every level. You move headquarters more frequently. You shorten communication windows. You reduce the size of meetings. You stop trusting that the building you've used for 3 years is still secure. Every one of those changes degrades coordination. Degraded coordination compounds over time, especially inside a fleet already under sustained strike pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. The Black Sea Fleet never recovered its operational posture in Crimea. In the months following Crab Trap, Ukraine struck the main ship repair facility in Sevastopol, crippled an attack submarine, sank the missile corvette Ivanovets in Donoslav Bay, destroyed the patrol ship Sergei Kotov near the Kerch Strait, and forced the progressive withdrawal of surface combatants to Novorossiysk. A fleet that had threatened Odessa's coastline with amphibious assault in the opening weeks of the war could no longer operate safely in its own home waters by the end of 2024. None of that started with the missiles. It started with whoever told Ukraine's Special Operations Forces that the admirals were meeting at 11:47 on a Friday. 2 storm shadows, 1 building, 1 meeting that lasted exactly long enough. The geometry of the entire operation was locked in before the Su-24 ever left the ground. The fleet just didn't know it yet.